as a performing artist, there's all of those like very misogynistic and restrictive expectations placed on what your body should look like if it's going to be commercially successful, which usually involves a low amount of body fat and certain kinds of like hip to waist ratios and problematic constructions around like what beauty is and youthfulness and all that stuff, right? So there's that element to it. There's the inverse. Men are also put under a magnifying glass if you're making a living as a performing artist with incredibly unhealthy expectations around body fat or muscularity. There's issues on both sides.
You mentioned men. I'm just going to pull this in. As a woman, I often was biased in my thoughts around the male beauty expectation.
Okay.
And I now see, because I have a 17-year-old son,
Yeah.
and one of the things I've noticed is there is in focus now than what I remember growing up on men's bodies being beautiful, being sort of like get fit. And there's this unrealistic expectation around like 6-packs, 9-packs, 12-packs, I don't know, like that body ideal, lose some of our gender norms and take on other ones. I think that's such a bad one for men to take on, this unrealistic fashion and beauty expectation, which doesn't really serve anybody. You notice it more than ever before.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you notice that over the past, like I would say over the past 15 years, there seems to be this like, I'm blaming Marvel.
So around the 2010s and Men's Health magazine covers, the image that was put out there of what A-list celebrities looked like, which were achieved through restrictive diets and personal trainers and drugs. Like those actors have all been like, this is terrible. My body felt awful. I was so sick afterwards. I never want to do that again. I think you're absolutely right. I saw a comparison of like what Arnold Schwarzenegger looked like in the first Terminator movie. And it's like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the cultural myth around Arnold is just, you know, being like a big mountain of muscle, right? But if you actually like hold up a photo of like 1980s Arnold, which was like, he was famous because that was so unusual at the time.
Yes.
With like the Chris Hemsworth Thor or like Captain America, like they're the same size, except now that's become like a benchmark where it's like, that's what it is to be hot. And it's like, no.
And I also remember Arnold, because like I'm old enough to remember this, like he was also very naked, like when men were not naked. And it was like, like naked man, right? And like now that's just like standard, like you know, in movies, like you're not surprised to see men getting.
You have to have a shirtless scene. Yeah. And I mean, this is something, working in stunts, there's different anxieties for performers around like physique. So for stunt men, a lot of stunt men like make a lot of money doing doubling. So you're doubling a male actor, or you're doing what they call an ND role, nondescript. So you're like stunt cop number 4, stunt thug number 2, like that kind of thing, where like you have to get blown backwards when a car explodes or something. Or you're doubling Chris Hemsworth running across rooftops or something, or flying as Thor.
Did you double Chris Hemsworth?
No, I mean, testosterone has been kind to me, but unfortunately, or fortunately, I haven't put on quite that much muscle yet. A lot of stunt women are coming from athletics. They're coming from gymnastics. They're coming from extreme sports. They're coming from, you know, from cheer. So you have like an athletic body. But now you're doubling an actress who's never lifted anything heavier than a coffee cup in her life. And so like I can see the head of her humerus. There's no deltoid muscle, because this is also the aesthetic that like the movie system in Hollywood has promoted. Even in superheroes, don't get me started. Like what?
We've been down such a different
So some women, like the amount of like disordered eating, it's everyone, and everyone's very private about it, but everybody knows like someone who's gone on a crash diet, which is not even just you just don't eat for weeks so that you can double somebody, because it can be quite lucrative, or maybe it'll like increase your opportunities because you're self-employed.
The amount in the creative space, whether it be visual, audio, music, what ends up happening is like that image that we are portraying to young people is so skewed. It's so unhealthy. It's so
Yes.
unhealthy.
To loop back to what you were saying about your son and like what you're noticing in terms of like shifts in expectation for men's aesthetics. Someone who was socialized as a girl and tried their best, but really didn't do a good job of like trying to live part of their young adult life, socialized as a young woman. I struggled with disordered eating almost my entire life for a variety of reasons. But the other one was like I was trying to look a way that my body would never, ever look.
And one of the things I found out is with autism, there's a lot of disordered eating or body dysmorphia. Just with the diagnosis, it's alone. Sometimes, like, I don't even know if I'm hungry. Sometimes I look at myself and I go, like, is this what a body should look like?
All the little barters and bets and deals that we make with ourselves when we end up slipping into these patterns of behavior. But as somebody who's more masculine presenting now and who gets read as being a young man a lot, working in circus and working in the film industry, I absolutely have a whole new batch of anxieties where I'm like, wow, I'm so happy and feel much more at home in my body than I ever did before. And that's like something that's continuing to unfold, which is interesting to me, and I remain curious about it. But for someone working in the performing arts, I'm like, ooh, but I don't have a six pack. The performing arts, it's just awful for everyone. Yay!
All of these interlapping dynamics, I can just imagine, like, with creativity and art and like all of these different pieces, like living in the body of S has to be stressful. And then also like euphoric at times with all of these different things at play. So I'm just loving our conversation because like I feel like I can really like just identify with many of the things you've said. And I'm not a circus performer, though I wish I was. There was a time I wished I was a circus performer. I was like, I'm so flexible. I should be a contortionist.
Ooh, double-edged sword, let me tell you, buddy.
As humans, we need to maybe like have less of this ideal body image out there. And so I will say we had talked way longer than I ever thought we would. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Ess. Part 1 will be out soon. Don't forget, you can find the podcast 52 Weeks of Health Equity everywhere you listen to podcasts and at www.consciousbyus.com. To learn more about and support Ess's work, you can go to www.strangewonderfulcreature.com. Once again, thanks for listening.